great British summertime. As the nation shrugs off its winter blues, we spill out into the sunshine and let our passions run free. But in 1976, something strange happened. Something more than the usual British enthusiasm for fun in the sun.
It was a hot, glorious, heady summer.
It was so unpredictable. That's what made it so great.
76, summer, something magical.
It was the hottest summer on record, and under the glaring heat, tension filled the air.
Oh, yeah, man, Antichrist, yeah!
While the country baked and sweltered, shriveled and dried out, the crusty British establishment suddenly found itself under attack.
So here were we, moving around, very alert, very sharp of tongue.
The energy was undeniable. The anger and the rage was undeniable.
In the space of a few long, hot months, British society suffered an upheaval which would transform a generation.
It just had the right ingredients. It's chemistry. You put those different things together, you get an explosion.
It was the beginning. It was a new beginning.
It's Arteta Bobby!
And I'm Fat Steve. And I'm the star of the show, Princess Sandra. And together, we're Spicehead-Media. For 3 days and nights, we struggled along roads packed with refugees. But by the time we got to the little red brick house, Carrie and her father had gone. I'm sorry for the interruption of War of the Worlds there. This is Fat Steve, Spiceheads-Media, just continuing with his mad life stories, everybody. And the book Skegy Dell Soll. So, we continued to thumb a few lifts and nick on a few buzzes, and eventually we arrived at Skegness. Another lovely, hot, sunny day in that long, hot summer of 1976. So, as the street, we got to the end into the town, and there was a huge clock tower, and just to the left of that, I think it was, there was a pier. So we got on the front, we walked along the front, and we found a big fun fair, folks. So straight away, Harry wanted to go on there. Again, we had very little money left, but it was quite cheap in them days. So we had a couple of goes on the waltzer, I think, where Harry made friends with one of the gaff lads, one of the travellers, who kept spinning the waltzer. We came off there, and I think he went on a slide, and then we found some toffee apples, and we were almost out of money at that point. So Howard got quite friendly with some of these gaff lads, and there was an older one as well as the one that he'd been chatting to, and he told us that he had a hotel. So we spent most of the day there wandering around, meeting people, having what fun we could have with what bit of money we had, and we met up with them about 8 o'clock, 8:30. So we followed them from the fun fair across the road, down a few different streets here and there, all around. And we came into this sort of back alley, and he opened a gate. It was just starting to go dark, so he waved us through. We stepped in the gate, and down this sort of yard, and there was like a back door and a big hole underneath it. So we got to this, and we're looking at this building, and today I would have instantly recognised it as squat, where homeless people stay. And we were there, we were looking at each other, and Howie was just going to bend down when this man pinched his bottom. So Howie turned rather quick and nutted him, and the guy went down like a sack of shit. So the other one started mouthing off and shouting, and then other people started appearing out of this hole. So again, it was a mass exodus through this range of back alleys and wandered around. It had more or less gone completely dark now, and a strange eerie fog came down. I may have told this story in an earlier one of these episodes, but this is definitely the night that it actually was. This fog came down. It was like a damp fog that stuck on you, and then it started to rain. Now, I think this is the only time in my life when I remember fog and rain at the same time. I'm 66 now, and I've never experienced this before. So we're feeling our way around, and we're on the front. There's some toilets there that we went in, but they were a bit smelly, and we came out of there and we found this big stack of deck chairs wrapped up with tarpaulin. So Howie said, I've got an idea. I said, what? He said, why don't we make a tent? So we get these deck chairs out, and we sit two on this bit of grass at the side, broke some of the others up, stuck the wooden poles in the grass, about 6 in a circle, got this tarpaulin and put it over the top, and we made a sort of tent, wigwam thing. It was quite dark now and still foggy, and this misty fog and rain sort of was coming in a bit. So we closed that, got on these deck chairs, and we sat there and we had a little chat and told a few jokes and had a laugh. And eventually we fell to sleep, and as usual, very nice, long, restful sleep. So I'm dreaming about something strange, but again, I just can't remember these dreams. They were all fantastic. I think I was in a parachute, not sure. And I opened my eyes, and it was morning, there was daylight, and we can hear two people complaining outside. So they were complaining about vandalism and the degradation of the area, and so we pulled this cupboard back a little bit, and I looked out, and they're there and they're staring at this tent we've made and complaining. And then I looked down and I noticed that we were on a bowling green. So we'd stuck these wooden poles into the bowling green grass and made this tent. So I woke Howie up, and he looked out, he concluded the same. We were definitely on a bowling green. So we waited till they went. It was probably 6:30, 7 o'clock, and we came out. We pulled up what we could to try and tidy it up a bit, but there were these 6 or 7 holes in the corner of the green, folks. So it was early. We had a little wander around again. We're avoiding the funfair, and things were quite desperate now. So we wandered around wondering what we were going to eat and what we was going to do. And we found these allotments. So we wandered in these allotments like you would. We found some carrots and some onions, I think, and a few potatoes. Put them in the room in the bag that we had. Wandered across and we found like a shelter on the promenade. So we get in there and we've still got a Caligas stove because one had blown up, but we had two. And we go back to the toilets, get some water, big pan, potatoes, carrots, onions, and the 2 OXO that we had. So about 25-30 minutes we're in this on this bench, and there's like this wooden hut with windows that see through to the other side where there's another bench. They're on the prom all the way along here at Blackpool. And this sort of broth soup is bubbling away. All we needed was some bread, but I said we'd no money left. So this is bubbling away, we're getting excited because it smelt nice. Suddenly this head pops up from the other side of this sort of shelter, and it's a guy with a hair lip. His head pops up and says, "Hey, see you, can we have some of your soup?" So it was a Scottish gentleman with a hair lip. I think he was called Hal. And as he's talking, this girl's head popped up, probably about 18, and immediately I got the impression that it was Plug off the Bath Street Kids, because she had big buck teeth. And I always said, "We'll share it with you if you can find some bread." So she buggered off for about 5 minutes, come back with a loaf and 2 more people, and this big fat bird and this other weird guy. And we've got this pan. Howie and me had a spoon, I think they had a fork or something, and we dip in the bread in this broth that we've made and this soup, and quite a lovely afternoon, folks. A special treat. So we got quite chatty with these people. They were living rough as well, and 2 of them had to go back to London, I think in a couple of days, because they were due in court for something. We didn't understand the implications of hanging around with people like this. It was just all an adventure to us. So it got to about 5 o'clock. We were all a bit hungry again, and we decided we'd go and see what we could find. On the beach there was a concrete hut under the pier. So we got to this concrete hut, and it had like wooden shutters all the way around. So we spent a good hour trying to pull these shutters off and get in it. There was a door round the back, which we just ignored. We went up onto the front, onto the seaside, and we found a phone box, an old-fashioned red phone box. How it managed to rip the door off the phone box. So the 4 of us carried this door down and started sprising it behind these wooden boards that were over the windows. Finally one popped off, but there was bars behind it, so we could see in. We could see chocolate and pop and cigarettes, folks. So we sat on the beach by this hut wondering what to do, when suddenly this girl that looked like Plug shouts, "Hey, everybody, the door's open. We hadn't tried the door. She tried the door handle and it was open. We went in, it even had electric. So, lights are on. Sleeping bag, fags, full. Sleeping bag, pop, chocolate, crisps, everything. So we've got these two huge, big, what looked like two caterpillars sleeping bags. The chocolate and pop one was too heavy. I think Howard got it over his shoulder and one of the other lads got it on the end. So we set off down the beach towards some sand dunes, probably at the north end of the beach, I would think, near Pontins or Butlins, which was where Howard was going to try and meet his friend Dale. That's Dale Cartwright. If you're still with us, Dale, we love you. Sorry I missed Howie's funeral. I was away travelling. Didn't find out for a year later. So we set up camp on these sand dunes and we just stuff ourselves with chocolate, crisps, and I think there were some cakes as well. Cans and cans of pop. We were completely stuffed and we curled up, the six of us, on this beach. It was quite a nice mild night. We fell asleep and we decided the next day we was going to go and try and find somewhere to sell the cigarettes. So next morning we set off and we managed to split up and get different lifts. The two lads had to go off to get to court, so they took a few of the fags with them to sell. We managed to get a lift and I got to, I think it was called the Haven Cafe on the A1 at Pontefract or Doncaster, somewhere like that. Went in there and they were building the M1, converting the A1 to the M1, I think. So we go in this, like a service station, and we have a look round. There's quite a lot of people in there. So we go to this man and say, would you like some fags? We got some cheap fags. I can't remember what we got. I think we were selling 6 packets. Could have been for £2, £3, something like that. I can't remember. But eventually people started crowding round and the cigarettes went like shit off a wet chrome shovel. So I think we ended up with £34. We split it, and I say 2 of the lads went off to court. Howie decided he was going back to Skegness to find his friend Dale, which left me with this girl that looked like Plug and the big fat bird. So we got across this main road into this field. There was a railway line at the side of us, and it was like the stuff you see in them films where they've made crop circles. So we're in the middle of all this sort of wheat or something. We've made a little area. Still got sleeping bags. I still had a big coat. So we ate a bit more chocolate, drunk a bit more pop, had some more crisps, and I lied down and the girls lied either side of me. And I'm trying to go to sleep when I felt a wandering hand, which I'd never really experienced before. And this hand was sort of stroking me, and then the hand from the other side came, and I'm looking at one girl to the right and one to the left, and they're giggling. So that was one of my earliest memories of any sexual contact with a female. Quite unusual, quite nice. And of course, I fell into a deep, restful sleep. Very happy, very content. So, the sun came up, shining in my eyes. I felt a bit cold, and I moved. I've no coat on. I've no boots on. I've no socks on. I've no sleeping bag. I've no kit. I've no nothing. I'm just lying in this field on my own, because they'd robbed me, like they do. I've no money. I've no nothing. Bastard so of them. So they gave me a bit of fun, and then I ended up paying for it in another way. So I headed off back towards this transport cafe on the A1, and I approached a few lorries. I've no shoes on, and this guy took pity on me, and he was going to Manchester. So I climbed in his truck. He dropped me in the centre of Manchester. So just as I've got off, I'm stood there looking round, wondering what I'm going to do, when suddenly I hear a horn peep, and I look, and there's a bus coming towards me, and it's my brother Brian, who was a bus driver for Selnick, and he'd been to Manchester on some trip, and he was going back to Farnworth, which is where he lived. So he's laughing at me, there with no shoes, no nothing. He didn't even know I was away. And I get on the bus. We get to Farnworth. He takes me to his house. He was married to a woman called Anne O'Brien, but she was now called Howarth. And Anne wouldn't let me go anywhere until I'd had a bath. So I had a bath. I borrowed a few clothes off them, and for once I was warm. I was in a nice terraced house in Farnworth, and I fell asleep. So I'm snoring like a pig, and suddenly I awaken to the sound of my Apollo 11 alarm clock going beep 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 beep. I reached over, turned it off, thought to myself, today's the day. Is it? Sat up. Thanks for listening, folks. Part Steve, Spiceheads-Media, Skegy Dell Soll. All the best, everybody. Thank you very, very much for listening.
Can you hear the drums, Fernando? I remember long ago another starry night like this. In the firelight, Fernando, you were humming to yourself and softly strumming your guitar. I could hear the distant drums and sounds of bugle calls were coming from afar. They were close now, Fernando. Every hour, every minute seemed to last eternally. I was so afraid, Fernando. We were young and full of life, and none of us prepared to die. And I'm not ashamed to say the roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry. There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for Lee Since many years I haven't seen a rifle in your hand. Can you hear the drums, Fernando? Do you still recall the fateful night we crossed the Rio Grande? I can see it in your eyes, how proud you were to fight for freedom in this land. There was something in the air that night, the stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for liberty, Fernando. Though we never thought that we could lose, there's no regret. If I had to do the same again, I would, my friend Fernando. There was something in the air that night, the stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for liberty, Fernando. Though we never thought that we could lose, there's no regret. If I had to do the same again, I would, my friend Fernando. Yes, if I had to do the same again, I would, my friend Fernando. If I had to do the same again, I would, my friend Fernando.
Hi everybody, it's Artist Bobby!
And I'm Fat Steve. And I'm the star of the show, Princess Sandra. And together we're Spicehead-Media.